make a frangipane tart, which is one of my favourite things. And but I'm going to make a slightly different pastry. So wish me luck, because I'm hopeless at pastry at the best of times. But I'm going to use this, which is pea flour. So I try and use organic as much as I can. But the thing about organic wheat flour or organic wheat is that in order for you to grow it in such a way that you don't have to use all the kind of artificial fertilisers and chemicals, etc., it means because wheat is such a hungry crop, it means you can only grow it every couple of years, and in between when you're growing wheat you have to feed the soil back all the nutrients, and the way you do that is growing things like legumes, so clovers and peas and things like that. Now this has been known for quite a long time, but the thing is that those crops, like sausage, those crops that are used to kind of feed the soil don't, although they do a lot of benefit to the soil, they don't necessarily feed us, because there's not a market for the sort of crops that they're growing in order to feed the soil. So what this company, Hobmedod's, does is they kind of liaise with the farmers who are growing in these special rotations and agree that they say, right, well, if you grow something for human consumption in your break crops, as we call them, then we will sell them for you for people to use in cooking and baking. And so it's one of those things that obviously a farmer isn't going to be able to change what they're doing if they haven't got a market for it, and if the market is always geared towards kind of wheat, and the only way you get any money is by growing wheat, and you have to grow it every year. He wasn't very well last week. He's absolutely better now. He's being really annoying. So, sausage, I'm trying to be really serious and kind of... Anyway, so I am using a pea flour, so to cut a very long-winded story short, basically if the farmer knows that they're going to get a sort of viable crop which is going to make money for them when they're not growing, anyone who knows cats will know that was sausage knocking something off the worktop just to make a point. Anyway, so by using the by using the grains which are grown for the rotational crops with wheat, you're actually providing a sort of far more consistent flow of income from the farmer, and you are supporting schemes which support the soil. So, like I said, a very long-winded way of me saying I'm going to make some pea pastry. So I've got my butter in here, and I'm using the recipe from Hobmedod's, which came with my recent order, and they're doing a frangipane plum tart. Now, I don't have any plums, but I do have pears, and pear frangipane is really yummy. So I'm just going to make this recipe. And again, this recipe, they're using yellow pea flour, and I'm using marrowfat, which is green, but I think the green of the pastry and the green of the pears should look quite good. So so I'm just going to get on and weigh out the ingredients. It's just a basic, slightly enriched pastry dough. So flour, unsalted butter, it says 1 egg here, and I'm doing a half quantity, so I use one of my little pullet eggs because the young hens have just started laying, and they lay sort of eggs which are about half, 2/3 the size of a regular hen's egg, and some water. So it's just a slightly rich dough, more than your regular short crust. So I'll just get on, weigh out I've already got the butter in here. So I'll just get on and weigh out the flour. So how much do I need? A quick bit of maths. Right, 100 and something. Okay. Hopefully you can see the kind of subtle green hue of the flour. It's a really beautiful colour actually. I love this sort of sage green colour, as I think I've mentioned in some of my other vlogs. So yes, I'll see how it looks with the pastry. This pea flour makes a really nice flatbread as well. I've made these before. There's a Richard Burton recipe I've got for kind of just non-yeasted flatbreads, so just with baking powder and yoghurt. And the green is just really fun. It looks lovely when you sort of bake them in a dry frying pan because they get the lovely sort of green with the sort of toasty bits as well. So it's a nice flour to use and obviously gluten free. I've just added a beaten egg, small beaten egg, and I just put 1 tablespoon of water in. Meant to have 2, so I will probably add another one because it looks fairly dry. But you can see how it's a bit glary. It's beautiful green colour. I just realised it matches my scarf and my jumper. I'm rather a fan of green. So I'm just sort of mixing this in with a knife. I'm not using the paddle beater because it's quite a it's not quite as robust as wheat flour, not having any gluten in it. And so I'm just going to sort of form this into a ball, and then I'll put it in just into the fridge for a bit, just to kind of firm up and cool down a bit, and then I'll line the tart case with it. I'm going to do the frangipane now while the pastry is resting, and it's fairly basic frangipane, so just some unsalted butter. They use caster sugar, but I don't have any. Honestly, I do these recipes. You'd have thought I'd have actually thought what I was going to cook, and then actually made sure I had the ingredients before I put them on the vlog, but sadly not. Anyway, it's soft brown. It's kind of fudgy, frangipane anyway, so I don't think it'll hugely matter. And some almonds. Right, I'm going to mix this up in a minute. Now they aren't, or there's no, in the recipe it doesn't say anything about almond essence or almond extract, but I do have some, so I'm going to pop a couple of drops in. I just absolutely love almonds, and so this will just enhance that flavour. There we go. Here I've got my frangipane ingredients. So that's the almonds, the butter, and an egg and the sugar. So I'm just going to mix this up in the KitchenAid. The pastry's had a chance to rest in the fridge now. So I'm going to roll it out to line this pie dish. You're really meant to use sort of a tart tin. And this is a really nice Le Creuset one. It's one of those ones which looks really nice, but it doesn't actually make particularly good pastry because it's quite thick and it doesn't sort of heat up properly. But it's really pretty and it matches everything else. Sorry, but that's the cat just scratching the table leg in the background. He's determined to be part of this video. Anyway, so I'm just going to dust a bit of flour. Now it says that this is as easy to work as any other flour. So I must admit I've not made 100% gluten-free flour before. So let's see how we do. So there's my pastry case, which I'm now going to fill with the frangipane, which I've just mixed up in the KitchenAid. So I've just put the oven on to 180 to heat, and I've put the frangipane into the tart case. So these are pears from my friend's garden. Just keep these bits, and I'm just going to slice them and place them on top. This now goes in the oven for about 30 or 40 minutes. Here's the tart, just come out of the oven. You can see the pastry has shrunk a little bit around the edge, but that's fine. Now I had quite a lot of pastry dough left over, so I've made 2 little tart cases for some savoury pies, but I've also just rolled these up into little balls, and I will bake these because they make good little dog treats, because obviously they're gluten-free and they're quite high in protein, and they've just got a little bit of butter and egg yolk in them. So I'm going to bake those in the oven for Scruff. No, not for you, sausage. These are my little pine trees. So they're Monterey pines, and these were grown for me by my mum, who collected the seed from the pine cones, which I'll show you, and has potted them up. And you can see they're now really beautiful, healthy little trees. That one's a bit taller, but they've done really well. And Mum and Dad walked their dog at a place called the Garlic Farm, where they live on the Isle of Wight, and they've got these Monterey pine trees all around the walk. And Mum sowed some seeds, and she's very kindly given me the result. So I'll plant these out. So they're not native, but they are really, oh, there's a feather there. They're not native to the UK, but they are a really nice tree. And as you probably know, I'm a big fan of planting trees of any description. And so I will put these down with another little collection of trees that I'm planting, and hopefully they'll grow up if the deer don't get them. So I'm hoping they'll do okay once they're planted out. Thanks, Mum. These are the pine cones of the Monterey pine tree, and you can see they're really lovely and big, and you know they're just a beautiful shape. I mean, they're quite a kind of classic pine cone, but just super sized. I was just reading about Monterey pines in my tree book, and they're a 3-needle pine. So in other words, their needles are held in clusters of 3. So if you go and look at the tree, there should be 3 rather than 2. That's sort of something like a Scots pine that's quite common around here in the UK. That's a 2-needle pine. But also the cones grow in clusters of between 3 and 5 around the branch, and you can see here are here's one that's been cut to show how they cluster around. Oh, that seed's fallen off. But here are the obviously. And it says in the book, and as my mum will testify, they're very easy to grow from seed. So they're quite a fun thing to grow, pine trees, because the first little shoot is just like a little kind of, looks like an umbrella without the fabric on it. It's got some little spokes on the top of it. And the seeds are obviously just, well, they usually come out quite easily. If you... these pine trees are actually good for, they're sort of designed to, or rather they've evolved to grow after forest fires, because they're actually native to kind of California. So they need heat to kind of open, and you can encourage them to open either put them by a radiator, or you can even put them in the oven for a bit. And after that, they'll germinate really well. So I'm just trying to see if there are any. I think most of the seeds have fallen out of these. You can just give the cones a good knock, which I won't do because otherwise I think the camera's wobbling quite a lot anyway. But as you can see, this one's just starting to kind of unfurl itself. So yeah, I mean, they're beautiful even when they're closed up. I mean, they're really. So I mean, I just love pine cones. There's something so sort of structural and architectural about them. Absolutely beautiful whether they're closed or open. And as I said, but if you do find pine, or there's one hasn't actually got a seed on the end, but they're obviously got a little kind of wing on them so they can helicopter down. And I'll see if this one's got there are a few still in here. I have been known to get tweezers out, which and pick them out of the pine cones, which may or may not surprise you. Probably not, given me and my obsession with owl pellets. But yeah, so they've got this sort of papery seeds inside. That one's just broken, but I'll see if I can find one. No, that's just broken as well. There are a few in here, but normally they drop out quite easily, and you just put them in some peat-free compost, and they'll grow. Obviously, they're a very long-lived tree, but it's really fun I love planting tree seeds of any type, really. Conkers, acorns, sycamore, maple. They're just really fun thing to grow, and I love the fact that you get this tiny little seed. Here's an actual seed. So here we are. Don't know if you can see this little tiny seed, and that there's something just very majestic about the fact that something, you know, tiny like that will grow up to, you know, to be a 500-year-old tree. And so yeah, I would look out for different pine trees. Obviously they're grown, like I said, they grow well near the sea, and my parents, and they're grown as a windbreak, and so my parents live on the Isle of Wight, and so they're grown as a sort of salt barrier and windbreak on coastal areas. So, you know, if you live near the coast, they might well be near you. And so do have a look out for these pine cones, and they make lovely decorations. And given that we're just into autumn now, properly, hence the scarf and the jumper and the shirt and the heating on, they're lovely to sort of decorate the house. And if you can keep them away for your puppy, as I'm having to do, they're you know, they're really lovely to use in different places around the house. So yeah, Monterey pines. Here's a wreath I made with some of the pine cones, the spruce pine cones and the Scots pine cones mainly, and I basically just used a hoop of willow stems which bend quite nicely, and then I just tied the pine cones on with some string, and then I kind of backfilled them with bay leaves because my bay tree is burgeoning rather. So there we go. I can't get a terribly good, like, all in one. Oh, that's not too bad. It's in my porch. I can't put it on my door because I don't have any sort of hook. But yeah, here we are. So I got the inspiration from an Instagram account where the lady had done a beautiful sort of lavender autumn wreath. So yes, wreaths aren't just for Christmas. And yeah, if you've got some pine cones, it's a nice thing to do with them. that's it for the vlog for this week. Slightly shorter one because I've been a bit busy with the pup, but I'll be back next week with some more bits and bobs from Shawpits, so I hope to see you then.